Hello and welcome aboard the Gallant Says podcast live at youtube.com/Paul Gallant and twitch.tv/Gallant Says. Today is Tuesday, October 17th of 2023 on a show that's also available wherever you get your podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. Right now, just wrapping up a fun little thumbnail, throwing some cutesy lingo into the write-up for this bad boy so that we can trick people into joining us so they can get all of our takes, and monetizing this thing as well, because for whatever reason, the default setting on YouTube is that it doesn't start off monetizing. I've been getting a lot of smoke over the last couple of days from Texas Rangers fans. They do exist, apparently. I've been getting lots of comments from them on the TikTok. I've been getting lots of comments from them on YouTube as well. And I gotta tip my hat to them. They're truly, really uncreative. Honestly, if I go onto either TikTok, YouTube, and see one more person comment, "This isn't aging well," with the Astros down 0-2 in the ALCS, I may try to electrocute myself. It is getting very old, and I'm sure this isn't going to help me out. I do think it's interesting the confidence with which all fan bases operate with before a series against the Houston Astros and during a series against the Houston Astros when it's far from over. I know a lot of Twins fans were really excited when the series was tied at 1 game apiece. Didn't go their way. I got a lot of people saying that one of the confident, cocky, condescending posts that I had didn't age well. Then there were people responding to them. Astros fans who were saying, "This didn't age well." And fuck, can we stop saying this isn't aging well? Nothing ages well. Tell me one thing that ages well. Alcohol? Cheese? Fungus? For the most part, things get better with age for a time, and then they go to shit. See my beard? See all the white? Is this aging well? Raleigh Fingers 8 says, dry-aged beef. Sure. And we could also say Sofia Vergara, Kate Beckinsale, Paul Rudd. What we're saying is rich people, Tom Brady. But nothing fucking ages well. You operate in the moment. You have an opinion. I'm not even mad at the people clapping back on me. If you listen to my radio show, you know I truly don't give a fuck when I'm wrong. I'm trying to make people laugh, to giggle. But fuck! I just don't want to hear this isn't aging well again. That's it. Paul, this show isn't aging well. You're rambling. I saw the thumbnail that looked like you were going to compare CJ Stroud to Tom Brady. We'll get to that shit in a bit. But don't fucking tell me this isn't aging well. Give me something else. Roast me. I'm super white. I'm not even 35 and my hair's going gray. I got whites in my beard. My eyebrows would be one of. I didn't pluck. There's lots of ammunition for you guys to shit on. Give me something original, for fuck's sake. Please. Thank you. You guys, I'm a little depressed because of the way I've been spending my time over the last couple of weeks. Because I'm spending all of my time talking and thinking about baseball. And if you know me, I don't really like baseball that much. I truly don't. I like that the Astros are good. It's fun to cover a great, historic team, but I'm not the biggest baseball fan, even though a lot of people, I think, follow me on youtube.com/Paul Gallant because of me talking about baseball. I think anyone who's watched or listened long enough knows I'm generally talking out of my ass. You can blame the Texans flagship for indoctrinating me into believing that talking about the Texans and talking about the NFL was the only way to go. You can also blame the Astros for absolutely being terrible from 2011 to 2015 when I first moved down here. There was no reason for me to actually watch Astros games. I sure as shit wasn't going to talk about it on the radio. Why should I watch it if it's not even good? But, covering baseball and basically my life revolving around baseball to the point where I don't even remember the amount of segments that we have gone full Houston Texans, full NFL in the last couple of weeks. I can't remember. It's depressing me a little bit. It's not the only thing depressing me. My car got assaulted at Minute Maid Park. I'm more mad about that than the Astros being down 0-2. Parking lot attendant, overbooked parking lot, just said, yeah, park wherever. So I parked by a gate. Someone threw a drink on my car. Somebody else drove into the side of it and scratched a bunch of paint off the back right bumper. I just fucking got this car. Now I gotta file a claim with insurance. That's gonna go through the roof. I gotta make a bunch of calls to police stations, but there's 6 different phone lines that you have to call just to get a hold of one person, and they're not open all day. So I could just file a police report just so I could get the camera footage to prove that I didn't fuck the car up on my own. Somebody else did it. Ugh, depressing. I just got this car. Fuck. My kitchen is dirty says, if you want to run an insurance cam, I can steal your car. Just let me know. No, I love the Gallant Mobile 4.0. First car I ever had was a, 95 Toyota Camry? Check that. I guess this is a Gallant Mobile 5.0. 95 Toyota Camry. Second car that I had was a 1991 Honda Accord. I used to call it the Vampire Mobile because if it got direct sunlight, it wouldn't start. I also, after that, had a 2001 Corolla. That was my first car down in Houston. Had a 2015 Nissan Sentra. That's the car I had for the longest. Got hit by an uninsured motorist a couple of months ago. Just got a Volkswagen Taos. I love the new car. I truly do. But now it's got a little scratch on it. Whee! Now I'm depressed. What else is depressing me? I've been very, very single for a very long time. I'm talking about the sex, folks. I haven't had it in a while since my long-distance relationship ended a couple of weeks ago. Thoughts and prayers for my man downstairs. He's sad. He's lonely. And complicating this, usually what I've turned to for my medicine has been alcohol. But after a bit of a rough trip to a little place called Las Vegas, I've been on a journey. A sober journey. I'm trying to relearn that I don't need to be fucked up to enjoy myself, to turn my brain off. Some are calling this Sober October. Shout out to Texas Tag, who just donated me $1.99 for the deductible. Shout out to you, sir. That will go a long way. But this Sober October might be over. I've had a relapse. It's not with beer, though. It's not with liquor. It's not with wine. It's not with drugs. Paul, you were at ACL on Saturday. Amazingly, I made it through that fucking thing sober. The Foo Fighters, in person, religious experience. No, I'm not talking about booze or drugs. I've relapsed for the first time in a year with something that I swear possesses me. How many of you guys have had Oreos like this? Pumpkin spice Oreos! They're essentially the non-chocolate Oreos. They're special edition. They only have a couple of like these a year. There's gingerbread ones that they bring out every now and then. They've had cinnamon roll ones. Those three, when I see them at a grocery store, like tonight, I was in Walmart looking for a replacement lead filter for my sink. And I walked down the cookie aisle and I saw these and I was like, oh, fuck. Fuck! So I got the pumpkin spice flavored cream Oreos. And I'm walking around the store looking for this filter, and I ate a whole row of them. Since I've been home, I see how many are left. Like, this is all from today. I've eaten 2/3 of it. I feel sick, and here's the thing: I can't fucking stop with these things. They're addictive. And here's where I'm gonna get real with you for a second, as I eat this pumpkin spice cream Oreo. Honestly, it's so good, but it's like so sweet. It's probably gonna make me puke. Oh my god, so good. Oh my god. Let me chew on this for a little bit. Enjoy the flavor. By the way, if only Nabisco was sponsoring this, but I can understand why they won't. It's pretty incredible how much of a stranglehold sugar has on our country, no? And really for its entire existence, like we're talking about the first colonizers going all the way back to the late 1400s. Someone discovered sugarcane. Sugarcane, with a lot of work done to it, can be turned into sugar. And all of a sudden, sugar is getting brought back to Europe, and people are making a shit ton of money off of it. It was a luxury in these days. And over time, stuff like this cookie, is it not just as fucking addictive as some of the stuff in our country? And obviously, it's not as deadly as fentanyl, and it doesn't cause car wrecks like alcohol. It doesn't melt your brain like some people who smoke a little bit too much weed does. But it makes you fat if you have too much. Sugar's basically a legal narcotic, no? It's a drug that became America's drug of choice, the one that pretty much everyone has regularly in the whole world, the same thing. And it was done through slavery. So, you're indirectly supporting the last remnants of slavery by eating sugary things. And it's been brainwashed as necessary for us by the actual government. I mean, think about the food pyramid. Remember the bottom of the food pyramid, which we all were taught about in school? Did you notice what's in the bottom? It's like fucking bread and cereal. Oh, me Lucky Charms. Like shit like that. And I'm pretty psychotic about health consciousness because I hate my body and I try to eat as healthy as I can. I don't let shit like this get in my house because I know I have no self-control around it. Is this shit not just as bad of a drug as some of the other things that we frown upon? And the government is the one that's telling us with like food pyramids that this stuff's okay. And don't worry, we'll get to talking about CJ Stroud and Tom Brady in just a moment. But you want to believe everything the government tells you to do or tells you, right? During the pandemic, I'll speak for myself. I know at first I said, you know what? Fuck it. I'll play along. They want me to put on a mask. They want me to social distance. They want me to stay inside. Fine. But when things became more and more ridiculous in terms of restriction, especially in Seattle where I was living, and it became obvious that the people that were making these restrictions were flying by the seat of their pants, I know I started to raise questions and push back a little bit and roll my eyes and start to actively ignore some of the things that I was being told to do. And pushbacks by me, or questions asked by people like me were often met with derision, shaming, and did all questions about it deserve that broad brush stamp of disinformation, misinformation? No, not really. So as I eat this cookie, which is very good. My mom would be mad I'm eating with my mouth open. But here's a depressing realization that I've heard about, but never really dove into in great detail. Food and beverage companies pay millions of dollars for research that'll give them favorable results. And sometimes these results are designed to make it seem like, you know what, you should exercise more instead of cutting back on drinking a shit ton of Coca-Cola or eating a bunch of Nestle stuff. And it's crazy. Remember when Nestle tried to sponsor an obesity conference earlier this year? You remember that? They got kicked out. But I actually went to their website today, and Nestle has on its website an Ask Nestle section. It says, supporting healthy nutrition. There's a picture of somebody cutting up tomatoes. What the fuck does Nestle make that has tomatoes in it? Which, by the way, Tom Brady doesn't approve of. My Lord and Savior. Nestle is helping to tackle obesity by offering tastier and healthy choices for kids and family. Does Nestle make anything that's healthy? I'm clicking on the brands. Okay. Cereals. Breakfast cereals. What do we have? Probably a lot of sweet candy stuff. Chocolate and confectionery. Some of the Nestle cereal options, by the way. Cocoa Crunch. What? Choco-Pick. I don't know what the fuck that is. Sounds like it's chocolate. Kit Kat cereal. A delicious combination of milk, chocolate, and wafer taste. I mean, what are we doing here? I guess they own Cheerios, so they've got that going for them, at least. But it's fucking crazy. But here we are. We got tomatoes. We're chopping them up on a board. That looks healthy. Some of the other brands that Nestle has. Nestle makes ketchup, as Simple Stark brings up. Twitch.tv/Gallant says. What kind of drinks do they have? Oh, Nesquik chocolate milk? Nestle Milo, which is essentially some version of a chocolate drink. It's nuts. So, as I finish this cookie, he said before he pukes this up later, just know that sugar is a narcotic. No one's ever going to call it that because the government's always going to look the other way for some of the big corporations that we have in our country that you regularly see advertisements for. Coca-Cola, Dr. Pepper, etc. But as someone who is a bit of a health freak and who keeps this shit out of his house because he knows how he has no self-control with it, probably less self-control than I have with alcohol, weed, video games, anything like that. That's what it is. It is a narcotic. Used to be a luxury. Now it's everywhere. All right, guys. Paul, you took 19 minutes to talk about the sports. Fine. I'll talk about sports. Haven't talked a lot of football recently. How about those Houston Texans? They're 3-3. Going into their bye week. Super awesome. It truly has been enjoyable to watch the team this year. I get why some people are a little bit slow to come back into the fold. Maybe you remember the 2018 season where the Texans won 9 games in a row, had Deshaun Watson under center, but everybody kind of thought they were bullshit because they started 0-1. It's unfortunate that the Texans are a bit of a victim of their own schedule because beating the Saints, not as impressive a couple of weeks later. Holy shit, the Phillies looking impressive, though. 10-0 they won today. I just flashed up on the score. But take a good look at the Houston Texans schedule. The Steelers wins less impressive. You lose to the Falcons. Falcons are kind of a boring team. The Jaguars have won 3 in a row since the Texans beat them convincingly 37-17 in Jacksonville. But it's still Jacksonville, even with Trevor Lawrence. They beat the Saints. It's Derek Carr. They won the game in a somewhat ugly fashion. You can nitpick the wins. You can nitpick the team. And I just have a hard time over the next couple of weeks seeing the Texans winning a game that brings people back. I suppose a win over the Bengals November 12th in Cincinnati could impress some, but the Bengals aren't playing that well this year. I suppose others could perhaps look at the at-Jets game for December 10th. And you might wonder, is Aaron Rodgers going to be back? But the rest of the way, the Texans don't play teams like the Chiefs or the Eagles or the Cowboys, all of whom they played last year, wins that could potentially bring people back in. And thus, I haven't been talking about them a lot on the radio, but I do feel a bit like I'm neglecting the team. I have enjoyed what I've seen thus far. I've been to all 3 home games at NRG Stadium this year, and I plan to go to more. I think it's a respectable operation for the first time in a long time. My buddy, DJ Biename, who is the beat reporter for the Texans for ESPN, had a feature piece about CJ Stroud that came out today, and I found it very interesting. A little backstory on me, because I'm not sure that everybody knows who I am, where I'm from, but I grew up in the South Shore of Massachusetts, a diehard Patriots fan. Moved to Florida when I was 14, still stayed a Patriots fan. One of the conditions of me moving down to Florida with my mom was that we would get NFL Sunday ticket just for me. I had to do a bunch of chores around the house to make sure I got that NFL Sunday ticket. I did that NFL Sunday ticket. I watched every single game. The first 2 years I was down in Florida, the Patriots won their 2nd and 3rd Super Bowl. I came into that school being a total asshole, acting like the Patriots were the greatest thing of all time. This was when the Bucs were the defending Super Bowl champs. The Patriots made me right. My blind faith in that team, religious zealotry, turned me into an elitist as a sports fan. But if you've been paying attention to the NFL of late, you'd notice that the Patriots are fucking doo-doo this year. They might even fire Bill Belichick at the end of the year, and I wouldn't even blame them. I'm not pushing back on that one. It's been bad. But to go back to DJ's piece, DJ talked with CJ Stroud. And there's an interesting quote in this piece that DJ highlighted while promoting the article on his Twitter account. Part of becoming a leader is learning from the best. Stroud didn't take a lunch conversation with future Hall of Famer Tom Brady and Fanatic CEO Michael Rubin lightly. Quote, on TV, you look at star quarterbacks and think, man, they're just so busy. They can't hang out with their teammates. They're probably just locked in on what they got going, Stroud told ESPN. And Brady was like, I just never want to let my teammates down. He said those words exactly. I was like, man, that's how I am. I love kicking it with my boys. Those are my brothers. So it definitely hit home when he was talking about it. I'm not going to act like I know CJ Stroud on a personal level. I don't. It's impossible for any of us to know a quarterback on a personal level. Remember when we all liked Deshaun Watson and how that turned? I will say, though, that in limited interactions with CJ Stroud, I find him to be rather authentic. He is clearly a man of faith. I have a lot of respect for people that are able to keep faith. There are times where I wish I was able to keep it myself. Probably too late for me. But I never want to take someone's faith away because I'm a cynical skeptic. You know, I don't want to do that. And I think that's a big part of who Stroud is. And considering all the shit that he's been through, with his father having been in jail for a long time, with some of the trials and tribulations his family went through that Colin Cowherd conveniently overlooked or ignored when talking about how the tougher the upbringing, the tougher the quarterback. Like, there's a lot that Stroud's been through. And I also buy into this idea that Stroud is one of the guys. In that piece by DJ, at the very beginning, it highlights a back and forth that he and Jalen Petrie had, where he's given Petrie some shit after Petrie talked a little bit of shit. And it's hard for a quarterback in any organization to be an everyman, but I do think that Stroud has an element of it. A little different when you're a number 2 overall pick versus pick number 199 like Tom Brady was. But as someone who grew up watching Tom Brady, one of the things that you will know about Brady early on in his career, and it did help that he wasn't one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but Brady was one of the guys. And that team loved him. And you'd notice that a lot of people probably didn't like Tom Brady before they actually got to play with him over the course of his career. But then they came to play with him. They realized that this is a person who does not consider himself, at least outwardly, to be better than anyone around him. And I think it made a lot of people gravitate towards him. And I also think that it made a lot of other players maybe willing to take a little bit less money to, play for the Patriots and a very demanding Bill Belichick, but to also play with a guy like that who, is a great quarterback, but also is a real guy. So with the Patriots kind of sucking, if CJ Stroud can successfully pull off the ability to be an everyman, which I think less and less quarterbacks are capable of doing. It's not to say there aren't guys like that. I think Mahomes is like that. I think Josh Allen is like that. But if he's got that as something working for him, I think it's going to lend itself to an organization that's got real stability. And of course, there have been asshole quarterbacks. I feel like Dan Marino got that moniker. You could argue Aaron Rodgers in his own way, an aloof asshole. There's a lot of guys who seem to be not the most engaging guy. Hell, we covered Brock Osweiler. Brock Osweiler seemed like he read a textbook about how to seem like an everyman. And remember every single press conference that we heard from him, and it just sounded like he was talking out of his ass and trying to convince himself that he's a leader. It sounded very politician-esque. I haven't heard him on the football broadcast he's been on, and truly, at times I felt like I may have bullied him in retrospect a little bit too much because of his play on the field. I hope that he finds a calling in his second career. He definitely could play like Robert Pattinson stunt double. The Batman. He looks a lot like Robert Pattinson. And I like the Batman, by the way. You've also got Russell Wilson, and Russell Wilson was not able to pull off the everyman element. One of the big things behind the scenes in Seattle was always about how his teammates didn't seem to like him for one reason or another. And I don't know all the details of that, but I think one of the keys to life as a quarterback in the NFL, to be loved, which isn't the end-all be-all, is to be capable of being one of the guys. It can't be faked, and I think CJ Stroud has that. Now, we're only 6 games into his career. He threw sub 50% against the Saints on Sunday. That's a good defense. He threw his first interception. Some miscommunications with Robert Woods. You wonder what would have happened had there been better communication between the two of those. One was on a 3rd down. The other one was a throw in the end zone where it looked like Woods fucked up on that one. But I've really liked what I've seen from Stroud thus far. And if Stroud is an apostle of Tom Brady. Hang on. Being a little sacrilegious here. Tom Edward Patrick Brady Jr. Amen. You know, if you're familiar with the Bible, there are lots of apostles. There were prophets. Could CJ Stroud be the guy to successfully take Tom Brady's word off of one lunch encounter and become the next guy? If he does, it'll make it a lot easier for me to jump from bandwagon to bandwagon as a football fan. And I am big into that because fuck, the Patriots suck. I haven't even watched the last 3 games. I feel bad because there are really only 2 teams I still love as a fan. It's the Patriots. It's the Celtics. It's sometimes Syracuse, but I think I get more mad at Syracuse than I enjoy Syracuse football, Syracuse basketball, especially football of late and basketball of late. But, I mean, if CJ Stroud can be Tom Brady, likable, amazing, I might have to jump on a bandwagon. Anyway, I got to extinguish this candle. Let's read some comments here. Twitch.tv/Gallant says, Paul, who are you betting to be the Patriots' new quarterback next season? Caleb Williams or Mike Penix? That is a great question. I have a hard time imagining that they'll get the number 1 overall pick, really. I have a tough time imagining them getting it. Now, I think they just lost to the fucking Raiders, so certainly possible that they get the number 1 overall pick. But I think Drake May from North Carolina is supposed to be the second best quarterback in this year's draft. They're going to end up with a quarterback. There's no way they roll into next year with Mac Jones if they have an early pick. More comments here. B. Perwin 08 says, CJ is the truth! ! Dave's not here, man. 713 says, I think you need a beer at twitch.tv/Gallant says, no, it's sober October. And you know what? My pumpkin spice crack flavored cream Oreos are enough. Okay? Stop tempting me, devil man. My Kitchen is Dirty asks on twitch.tv/Gallant says, I wonder if Brady wears avocado cologne. You know, there is something I do know that Tom Brady has recommended. It doesn't have anything to do with avocado oil. Let me look it up really quick. He likes coconut oil a lot. I'm looking to see if... No, this is Gwyneth Paltrow. It's not Tom Brady. Some people use coconut oil as lube. Some people. Twitch.tv/Gallant says, Simple Stark asks, were you a Red Sox fan growing up? I was. I mean, you might wonder why I jumped the bandwagon. Part of it had to do with the fact that, well, let's be honest. You work in a market that you're not from. You're a fucking idiot if you've lived in a city for a long time and you don't try to embrace the local teams. There's only been one local team that truly has impressed me as a really spoiled sports fan growing up. It's been the Astros. So, 100% I bandwagon jumped. Don't get it twisted. 2015, the first year that they made the playoffs, it certainly helped that I was dating a girl who worked for the Astros at the time. There was a little bit of me that still liked the Red Sox, but it wasn't very passionate. And over time, I became disillusioned with the Red Sox because of the way that they fired Terry Francona after he collapsed in 2011. It was a collapse. I understood why they fired him, but I didn't think they needed to drag his name through the mud like he was addicted to pills and going through a divorce, and that was the reason for the 2011 collapse. There were stories that were written by that, and the Red Sox owned the Boston Globe, the local paper of the day. They would also write these weird op-eds about how, like, the Patriots aren't really that popular and the Red Sox are king in town, which has not been the case since the Patriots started winning. Might be in the near future with how bad New England has been, especially this year. And there was other stuff, too. I felt like they didn't treat some of their great players, Nomar Garciaparra, Pedro Martinez, well at the end of their time here. I kind of get it with Nomar Garciaparra. Did help him in the World Series, trading for Orlando Cabrera. But with Pedro, that one's hard. And then as somebody who actually did some post-game show work for them in 2018 from Houston, I would watch Red Sox games and I do post-game shows for them. I got to a point with the Red Sox where I was just fucking done with them. Gush and Green Granny 9990 says, eat your mic. No, sir, I can't do that. One last thing I want to touch on. I am not good at this, as you can tell, seeing as it took me 15 minutes to even talk about CJ Stroud, Tom Brady. But there's an art to speaking with few words. Nick Caserio is really bad at it. And I wonder if people would like him a little bit more if he said less. Like if there was just less volume with what he says. Because he is one of those guys who just talks and he just keeps going and going. And if he was able to land the plane a little bit quicker, if he was able to develop a tight five, if you will, it's a stand-up comedy term. I got to do stand-up again. Hopefully people will laugh next time. They didn't laugh when I opened for Donnell Rawlings. That was an interesting experience, to say the least. At least I didn't stumble. For those who don't know, Donnell Rawlings came on my radio show a couple of months ago. And then when I said, I've always wanted to try stand-up, he said, how about you open for me? I opened for him. I didn't stumble with any of my jokes, but no one laughed. The whole premise was, I'm Paul Gallant, and everyone thinks I'm gay. Which a lot of people think I'm gay. Nothing wrong with being gay. Sort of embraced it, don't really care, let it roll off my shoulder. But I made a bunch of jokes about it, and people did not laugh at it. Back to the drawing board. Eventually, we'll be back out there. But you want to have a tight five. You want to be quick with what you say. You don't want to ramble, said the Rambler, rambling before getting back to the point. So I looked at the transcripts for Nick Caserio's press conference. I didn't want to actually fucking listen to it. And I got to say, there's some really, really interesting things that I learned along the way in this press conference. I learned just how many words Nick Caserio uses. His opening statement, 207 words. Didn't actually read the context of what he said. It was TLDR. It's 2023. I don't have time to read. The answer to the first question he was asked, 219-word answer. The shortest answer that he gave about the role of the general manager. Quote, I try to stay out of the way. That's a big thing. Every other question that he answered saw lots of words. Third question, 216 words. Fourth question about CJ Stroud, 324 words. Fifth question, 219. Sixth question, 269. Seventh question about Will Anderson, 54. Does Nick Caserio hate Will Anderson because he only had 54 words to say about him? Eighth question, 373. Ninth question, 471. Jesus. 10th question was about Tom Brady and CJ Stroud comparisons. He did start it off by saying, one's in the Hall of Fame, one's not. He should have probably left it there. Tom Brady, comparing him to anybody is sacrilegious. You're a heretic and a heathen if you do that. 302 words for that answer. 199 for his 11th. 12th, 247. 13th, 260. 14, 349. 15, 234. 16, 192. 17, 386. 18, a question where he was asked about life. 96, and he ended it with, that's what life is about, candidly. Hard to believe Nick Caserio talking about life, seeing as he may be a robot or something like that. 20th question, 142. 21st question answered at this press conference, 289 words. In total, Nick Caserio said 5,330 words at his press conference today. Very nerdy that I counted that all out, right? Thank God for Microsoft Word having a word count feature. If you're typing a, I don't know, history paper, English paper, 12 fonts, double spacing, Arial, that would have been 20.2 fucking pages. That is insane. Why couldn't Nick Caserio just speak out one of my college reports, essays? Simplestark, twitch.tv/Gallant says, actual chat GPT responses from Nikki C. You ain't fucking kidding. And we might bring Robo Caserio back to the show tomorrow, but I don't want to have to go through the audio and clip it. He spoke so long. And you know what? I think more people would like him if he just talked a little bit less. You don't have to be brutally honest with every single answer. You can talk around things. But man, he just talks and talks and talks around things. Bro, you don't need to say that much. You don't. You did a great job in New England. I'm one of a few people that actually thinks you're good. That what we've seen from CJ Stroud, Will Anderson to begin the year makes you look good, assuming that you had a lot of impact on those decisions. And you just got to stop talking as much, bud. That's all. So that's my advice for CJ Stroud. Anyway, you want to get this podcast in podcast form. It's available Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. It's also available live at youtube.com/Paul Gallant and twitch.tv/Gallant says. Sunday night through Thursday night. Eventually, we will be back to a regular schedule that is centered around Sunday, Monday, and Thursday night football on those days, 6 o'clock probably on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. But we got to wait until the end of the postseason for the Houston Astros. Until then, just keep an eye out. We'll be live. You can interact. We will be on tomorrow night after the Astros and Rangers game number 3. You got any questions? Gallant says at gmail.com. I will squeeze in one answer for AJ. What's something that has made a lot of quarterbacks fail that you think Stroud should watch out for? Well, bad organizations. And this is a tricky spot for the Houston Texans because they've looked like a bad organization for the last 3 years. You don't really have control over that. In this league, you get drafted, and because of the existence of the franchise tag, if you're good, you're never leaving the team that drafts you. You're just there. If you're not good, you might go somewhere else. If you're below expectations or average, there's a chance you end up somewhere else eventually. But if someone committed serious capital into you and you play well, like what we've seen from CJ Stroud to this point, today's NFL, that guy's not going anywhere unless a trade is forced, like Russell Wilson. We've seen how that's worked out, or by Aaron Rodgers. That's how it goes. So I don't think there's really any advice for him on things to watch out for. I would say that you definitely want to have a head coach that you like. That seems right now to be something he has. You want a coordinator you like. That seems to be right now something he has. You want receivers you like. I think a lot more of quarterbacks believe that they are owed input. Appreciate that, Texas Tags. But I think you have to earn that input, and I think you also have to be careful if you're an organization, of how much input you give to a quarterback. I think Russell Wilson was talking out of his ass in Seattle towards the very end with some of the things he was asking for. Sign every offensive lineman. Sign every wide receiver. Bro, there's not a fucking, like, first off, you're making a shit ton of money, so that doesn't help. But second, there's a limit with the salary cap. You can't just sign everybody. And advocating to sign everybody, that doesn't necessarily help out the organization, you know? If you complain and bitch and moan about it enough, that could be a problem. So I would say for Stroud, the thing that he can control is that he can be a good teammate. He can be one of the guys. And at least based off of that article and based off of everything we know thus far, he is one of those guys right now. I think he's a humble, real, down-to-earth guy. I've enjoyed covering him thus far, and I hope his success continues. Anyway, that's going to wrap up today's Gallant Says podcast. Appreciate you tuning in. If you haven't subscribed or liked already, please do. It means a great deal. Thank you for sticking around with me late on this Tuesday night. So long. Farewell. We'll be back at it after Game 3 of the Astros and Rangers in South Oklahoma. For the love of fucking God, Astros, score some runs, don't get shelled, and get a dub. Thank you. Bye.